So thanks for coming out today, you guys. There's a lot of my friends in the audience, so this is a little bit less intimidating than it might otherwise be, so thanks for coming out to support me. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here. I appreciate the invite from Steve and Ross. And how do I advance the slide? Center button? Okay. So a little bit about me. I've been at Intel almost 13 years, and I've held a variety of roles in that time. Almost all of them have been in the digital space. I like to start off with a little bit more of a personal side about who I am. So those of you that know me well, don't hold these next couple of slides against me. I just try to have a little fun with my presentation. I didn't always want to be a media guy. In fact, at first I wanted to be a superhero. That probably wasn't a long-term solution to where I was going to be for the rest of my life. So the next step was really a walk-on part to the deadliest catch. Clearly that wasn't going to happen either. My dad is a 37-year educator, and he really pushed education on me, as did my mom, and they were great supporters. I grew up in Oregon. I went to the University of Oregon. I probably spent more time running around in circles than I did in the classroom. But I'm a diehard fan, so if you follow me on Twitter or see me talk anywhere, I usually try and throw in a Go Ducks along the way. Like I said, I've been at Intel for the last 13 years. I grew up in Oregon. Ironically, I was down here when I got hired by Intel, and it was my ticket back home to Oregon. I love the Bay Area, but I love Oregon more, so that's kind of where I've been the last 13 years of my life. On to kind of what I do and what I believe. This is a quote that is by Barry Judge, the Best Buy CMO, and I think it's something that he said a couple of years ago that really stuck with me. You don't get to tell customers what they get to think anymore. It's almost like the democratization of advertising. They get to have an opinion. And I think the reason why they get to have that opinion is that there's a lot of outlets for them to express that opinion. This is a slide I took from, I think, a Forbes article the last couple of days. It came out. I think it's a really good representation of what is available to the consumer out there to talk about the brands they're interested in, to be fans of the brands that they're interested in, and to really promote the brands that they're interested in. No offense to Google+, I think there's probably some better fits under Facebook and Twitter. I know that they've had a few fits and starts, but you know, the heat of Pinterest and Instagram and Spotify, I think, are also different expressive ways where consumers can talk about a brand in interesting ways. Control. We couldn't talk about Moneyball without throwing in an A's reference, and I grew up watching the Oakland A's, and I found this picture online and thought it would be an appropriate reference within this talk. Control is in the hands of the consumers more than ever before. And if we go back to the slide that we saw earlier, there is that choice. They're talking to their peers online and making decisions about brands, not from the brand's perspective, but really from their peer group perspective. We can influence to a certain extent. We want to be invited to that conversation to help influence even further within the personal conversation they're having with their friends. We try and do that every day at Intel. One of the things that's interesting for us right now is that we've typically gone after an audience that's not young. And we made a big transition in November, December of last year. After we had already briefed most of you guys on what the 2012 plan was, we said, wait a minute, we're going to go back and change that because we think the tastemakers are getting younger. And if you see the iconic brands that are out there like Apple and Nike and even new emerging brands like H&M, they're going after a much younger audience. They're going after the people that are influencing amongst their peer group, but also influencing up to their parents and the people that are writing the checks. We want to do the same thing. We're going after youth this year. We don't call it youth. We call it something else. I won't tell you exactly what we call it because it's kind of a funny nickname. But we're going after the younger audience, and our message for the first time in a long time is really one message. It's all about the Ultrabook for us. Intel's in kind of a unique position when it comes to the web. We power the infrastructure. We process a lot of the requests, and we really are kind of the user interface into the web in a lot of ways. I see a lot of people on their computers and now their handheld devices, and I think we're one of the only companies that can claim to be a part of the timeline from the data, leaving the data center to getting to the person to creating the experience that they're then pushing out to other people that are reading their blog or reading their article or they're tweeting with or they're exchanging messages on Facebook with. So we are in the mix on the back end. We really aim to be relevant on the front end and provide great experiences for everybody that is in the digital space. So our digital philosophy is much, much more than being cool. We like to be cool. It's recognizable. But for us, it's more than just creating a cool experience. We want to innovate. We want to surprise. We want to add value to people's experiences when they come and interact with our marketing online. Measurement is big for us. I'll get to a slide a little bit later on, but we measure everything, and we measure it very specifically to the program that we're developing. We have what we call the value point system. We work with OMD extensively to build a dashboard for each of our media programs, and we will react and optimize based on the value points that are coming in mid-program, even just as short as 2 weeks into the program, to adjust what the experience is for the customer and make it a better experience at any time during the flight. And we learn. I don't think I've ever had a program that we've run that we haven't learned something from. Some of the lessons are harder than others. Some of the programs run very, very easily. I have wonderful media partners that I work with, and you guys make a lot of our programs effortless on our part, or appear to be effortless on our part. We still learn something from all of them. We understand that people don't always think about buying a processor. So what we want to do is create an experience powered by technology, and specifically Intel technology, that makes it a memorable experience for those people. This is a shot from last week at South by Southwest. We worked with Seth Goldstein, who started Turntable.fm. And this was a party that we sponsored on Saturday, an event where we did one on the 10th and we did one on the 15th. And we got a lot of goodness for this. We're going very, very heavy in music this year. Turntable hasn't actually accepted any advertisers before the last couple of months, so it was one of those opportunistic things where we could provide a great experience for a younger demographic at South by and do kind of a first mover brand initiative within a pretty hot startup company. I think this is a great quote from Will.i.am. So Will's been in the news a lot with us over the last year or so. I think we call him our Director of Creative Innovation. And Will's a very creative guy. He's done a lot of great things in music. His brand is skyrocketing right now. He's everywhere I seem to turn. I love the quote where he says, "Today you need to turn a moment into momentum, and momentum into a movement. So I say make conversations and not ads." I think that's very, very interesting and insightful. People are starting to tune out ads in a lot of ways until you get them to actually talk about the advertisement that is being put in front of them. So don't make it necessarily look like an ad. Make it entertaining. We did that with the Museum of Me and The Chase. The Museum of Me launched out of Asia. It was a Facebook experience that launched, I think, May of last year, I want to say. And within 24 hours, it had 1 million downloads. And that was with no paid promotion. So has everybody seen the Museum of Me? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, so you guys know what I'm talking about. It's really interesting, creepy in some ways, in that you kind of make a movie about your past Facebook life, i.e. your real life. But I got to give those guys a lot of credit. They just kind of went with an idea and ran it through the pipeline, which is really hard to do at Intel sometimes. Travis will shake his head on that one. It was a cool experience, and with not a lot of paid promotion, we got a heck of a lot of interaction with something that was about the user. It wasn't necessarily about Intel. They understood the brand affiliation, but it was really about the user. And what the interesting thing was with Museum of Me, we actually got approached by a media partner that said, we'd like to use this in our promotion. And this is a media partner that we typically pay millions of dollars to from a broadcast perspective. It's CBS. CBS used this to promote their show Unforgettable. They saw how you could basically look back on the events of your life through this application, and it was relevant to the premise of the show. And they came to us, so we got a boatload of free promotion with somebody that usually charges us a fair amount of money for advertising on their network. The other one is The Chase. This was a 2-minute advertisement, if you will, that went on YouTube. We ran it in some IAB units, and it went to, I think, 2.5 million views on the Ad Age viral chart. What's interesting about The Chase, and you'll see this in the next couple of slides, is that it's had a pretty long shelf life. We took The Chase, Asia turned it into a really robust YouTube experience where you actually were immersed in the experience, and it was almost like a short film. We then took that in the US and created our first endeavor into Apple's iAd offering, and I'll show you a quick video. Last time I was here talking at the Mobile Summit, we had just been about a month or two into that, and now I have some results to share with you. I think this is a powerful statement too, and it's from MediaPost. Brands have a challenge now. This is the age of real-time content production. The focus has shifted from being iconic to posting a status update. Selfishly, we want to be iconic, but we also want to be social. I think the Intel brand is in itself iconic, and I think we've done a great job over the last 3 or 4 years really marking our ground in the social space. This is kind of one of our flagship programs. It came by way of a good partner of mine named Jason Ratner from Federated Media. And I can remember how this started. It was a back-of-the-napkin idea over dinner, and Jason and I talked about it. We had a passion for it. It was an extremely hard program to get off the ground. There was a lot of skepticism internally, but after taking some arrows and really defending the program and showing the goodness of it, we launched it and have sustained it for, I think it's the longest sustaining program that I've run in my time at Intel, and I think we're closing in on 11 or 12 quarters at this stage, so almost 3 years, 2.5 years. The nice thing about LifeScoop is that we call it a social platform. It's an opportunity for us to show the value of technology to people in their everyday lives. And we do it in a way where there's a destination site of mylifescoop.com, but that's not always just the central area of attention. We also push out a lot of content via Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. We've now pressed into the news aggregators with Flipboard and Zeit. And we also have just instituted StumbleUpon over the last couple of months, and it's amazing actually how much content gets shared on StumbleUpon. I was mildly surprised by some of the articles that got shared as many as 800,000 times. It's not a huge site. I think we're closing in on around 10 million users in the duration of the program. It's not meant to replace Intel.com. It's meant to create an experience outside of Intel.com that makes it a little bit more personal for the users that are wanting to learn more about technology within their everyday life. We've got about 33,000 Twitter followers, about 75,000 Facebook likes. We're very strong socially on this site. The Federated team does a great job kind of curating the brand message and the brand experience for us. We're heavily involved. But this team does a great job on the media partner side. This is the escape. This is the iAd that we did with Apple. Like I said, when I was here in October, we didn't have nearly the stats to share with you on this. Almost 3,000 hours spent, 5.5 million uniquely exposed customers, 61% tap-through rate. Compare that to a click-through rate on a banner ad, 0.01. So we're doing pretty well with that. That was a great experience. People are spending 1 minute and 14 seconds on average. The thing that I love is that every stat that we looked at within the iAd, we're outpacing the average for iAds in the catalog. so to speak. I'll show you a little bit about it. And I think you guys actually need to play this in the back.
Intel powers the world's most advanced computers behind the scenes. Our mission was to put the brand front and center and make the key features of the core processors come to life. Ansible teamed up with OMD to create an immersive iAd experience that puts you into the center of the action.
Hello, Agent. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, you must retrieve the Intel Core processor and return it to HQ.
You are instantly transformed into an action hero. Shake your phone to run from enemies. Your adrenaline activates Intel Turbo Boost for extra performance. Skillfully pick the lock using both hands to achieve Intel's smart multitasking. Attack enemies with Intel built-in gaming. Finally, lock up enemies away forever with the powerful Intel processor. The Intel brand was weaved into the entire experience from beginning to end. The response to the iAd was overwhelming. The iAd sparked tons of viral activity, as well as industry acclaim. MediaPost touted it as Intel's most ambitious and imaginative mobile advertising campaign to date. Furthermore, the Intel iAd drove user engagement and lift across key campaign metrics. Over 5 million agents accepted the mission. Playtime totaled over 2,000 hours. The Escape outperformed other iAds in market by over 200%. All goals were blown out of the water. Experience the iAd for yourself. Download the Apple iAd gallery and search for Intel. See if you have what it takes to make the escape.
So we're pretty happy with that. I think that we would definitely consider doing another iAd, especially with how well that one did. A lot of credit goes to being able to not steal somebody else's idea, but repurpose somebody else's idea. I think there are opportunities to do that within marketing and media, and we don't always take advantage of that. One of the things that we try and do globally is kind of keep a lens on what other people are doing in the other geographies and see if they're creating things that could be relevant to our market. They certainly did that with the YouTube experience for the Escape. And when we were looking for a creative outlet for our iAd endeavor, that was a perfect opportunity to leverage other people's good hard work. A lot of credit goes to OMD. They did a great job managing that program. Tons of credit goes to Ansible. Those guys did an amazing job building out all the mechanicals and the experience for Apple. And then Apple, you guys did a great job of helping us get it out there. So thank you for that. So like I mentioned before, we are an engineering company. We measure everything. It's not just measuring hashtags or what is happening in a conversation. It's measuring what's being said about a brand. It's measuring what brands are out at the forefront, what the tastemakers are saying, what are the trending topics. We go into significant detail on this. Becky Brown is our social media director at Intel, and she's really spearheading kind of the operations side of social, and she's done a great job with her team of putting an amazing infrastructure in place. We measure everything. We don't measure just for measurement's sake. We don't measure just to admire the data. It's a real-time way for us to influence marketing decisions that are happening throughout the quarter, throughout the year. We're curious. One of the tenets in if I had my Intel badge with me, if I flip it over, it's one of our key values is risk-taking. And that's something that's encouraged very heavily within my organization. A guy named CJ Bruno, who is the president of the Americas, has basically said to me, if you're not looking 6 to 9 to 12 months out and telling us where we should be in digital, not where we are now, you're doing the wrong thing. So he encourages that risk-taking. Informed risk-taking is what he calls it. And he said, he always forces me to kind of stoke that fire of curiosity and look for the next thing. And ironically, when that happens, when you do that, you get these opportunities. I've been doing this a long time. I'm very lucky to have a strong Rolodex. And oftentimes, the most unexpected things fly over the wall at you that you can take advantage of. I showed you the turntable.fm party at the top. These guys have never accepted advertising in the past. We challenge them, and I don't have the room wraps, but we challenge them to be open to advertising. If we're going to spend money to sponsor a party and be integrated into the experience at South by Southwest, we want to be integrated into the digital experience as well. So we sponsored 3 DJ battles with Turntable online, and we actually sent the winner of the DJ battle down to South by to spin virtually, digitally, next to the likes of Diplo, A-Track, and you see here Questlove. We like to be first to the party. We like to be a brand that's considered not risk averse and willing to put themselves out there to have the experience that nobody else has seen yet. When we're at South by, we actually ran a program called the Ultrabook Scavenger Hunt, and we basically hit an Ultrabook in Austin, and we hit it virtually as well, and created both a digital and a physical experience to find that Ultrabook. We worked with an agency called Modus Operandi out of LA, and these guys created a great Facebook experience, a good set of clues, and integrating the Google Maps API that would zoom in to the physical location each time a new clue was released or people got to a certain tweet threshold. As part of our turntable agreement, I asked Seth, I said, hey, it would be great if we could take what we're doing with you guys at South by and integrate it into this scavenger hunt. I said, you know, you're having Questlove there spinning for you. I know he's got a huge Twitter following, 2.5 million users. Would he tweet about the scavenger hunt? I'll tell you what, this is probably my single biggest effort this year, is to get this guy to tweet 140 characters about one of my programs that he probably doesn't care about. But we did it, and we did it at the right time, and it actually just pushed the zoom in on the Google Maps API to a point where we had people find the Ultrabook just like that. So one of the biggest things that my boss pounds into me is integrate, integrate, integrate. So find how we can get a connective DNA across all of our media programs, so if somebody sees us in one spot, we're recognizable if they see us 2 weeks later in another spot. I think that's great advice. It's something a lot of marketers don't do, and we're really trying to be a lot better at that at Intel. I'm not a big rules guy. Joe Staples is the creative director at Wieden & Kennedy. Super smart guy. I would recommend you Google him and listen to his TED Talk. He did a 5-minute TED Talk. I love this quote. I think that people that make rules about how to do ads make rules because they don't know how to make ads. That is some of the best advice that somebody I don't even know has ever given me. Joe and I are scheduled to have coffee at some point soon, so hopefully I'll get a few more sage words of wisdom from him along the way. But you know, he's got the credibility. He did the M&M Chrysler ad 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. He did the Clint Eastwood It's Halftime America ad this year. So Joe knows something about making ads. I will give credit where credit is due. This quote comes from a good partner of mine at Federated Media named Sam Klein. I loved it so much, I said, Sam, can I put this in my presentation today? If more brands were willing to take risks, advertising as a whole would be a lot more interesting. I completely agree with that. Take some risks. Don't just keep doing the same things that you always do. We are at such a point, and I'll skip to the next slide, we're just at the beginning on a lot of this stuff. Every day there's new things popping up. Pinterest, a little known fact, Pinterest has actually been around for quite some time. It's just the last 3 months that it's actually exploded. There are new opportunities like Pinterest or Instagram or you know, even something like the iAd every day. Don't rely on what we've always done in the past. Always look forward. And one of the things that we always try and do at Intel is not be average, not be good, not be great, but be amazing. Thank you. Sure. That's all right. That's humbling. Questions? I'll rub my shin as I answer. No questions? I'm okay. Thank you very much. I've taken harder falls. Yeah.
How does cause integrate in your global strategy?
Like cause marketing?
Whatever that is. I say that because cause marketing, nonprofit, corporate social responsibility have a grand swath that different people interpret them in different ways. So for you,
Sure.
however you want to interpret it, how does that fit into your?
So that's a great question. We segment media in a couple different ways at Intel. My focus, 100% consumer. So cause marketing for me really falls into our corporate campaigns team. Our corporate campaigns, our corporate and social responsibility. We have done some interesting things. I did a program 2 or 3 years ago on Facebook that was called Vote for a Cause. And basically what we did was we allowed people to nominate a 501(c) organization, and I always get that mixed up. Is it 501(c) or C3? Anyway, my wife would kill me because she's in that space. So we basically allowed them to nominate a charitable organization, and we did almost appropriately for this time of year a March Madness bracket challenge where we really left it up to the community to decide which organization was worthy of receiving the prize. And it was a $50,000 co-advertised media campaign. And $50,000 to a charitable organization is a lot of money. And to have a brand like Intel next to you within that is, I think, a pretty cool foundation to be able to promote your own brand. No more tripping, I promise. Yep.
Hey, David. Just a quick question regarding the iAds.
Yeah.
It was so. I thought it was fantastic that you guys. First off, credit to OMD, right? Because there's a lot of moving parts there for sure. So I can only imagine that was Herculean. But also, I like the fact that there was a measurement stat that you put up there in regards to hours of engagement. Can you take us down what that meant to Intel as the brand? And how much you value that?
Yeah, engagement is huge for us, right? Especially in the digital space. We get tons of awareness from TV. We want somebody to actually, and in this case with the iAd, we got them to unwittingly interact with the 3 major value propositions of our brand within the game. And we made it fun for them. And they spent a fair amount of time interacting with it. And 115 was the average. I think we had people spend, and I think I saw Rourke in the audience, there you are, 4 minutes or more on some of the users spent 4 minutes or more. So they're not just in and out. They're not just getting an image of our logo. They're actually really, like I said, unwittingly understanding the value proposition of the Core 2 processor.
Hey, Chris Shriver from ShareThrough. I was really interested in the quote that you had about kind of moving from being able to build an iconic brand to essentially being part of status updates. And
yeah,
I'd be really interested just to hear more of your thinking on that quote. Essentially, do you think there's no such thing as an iconic brand anymore, or essentially an iconic brand is someone that's regularly in status updates?
You know, I would actually. I think that's a difficult question to answer. I do think that there are iconic brands. I think people talk about brands differently than they ever have in the past, simply because they have different platforms to talk about that brand. You've never, before the last 4 or 5 years, had the ability to sustain a real-time conversation with a brand and have them respond back to you in kind. It's really been the brand shouting from the top of the mountain, "Look how great we are." Well, we as consumers get to say, well, you are great, but I'd like to see you change this, this, and this. And the brand has the opportunity to listen and participate and make the changes that the consumers are requesting. So, I think you have a different sort of iconic status, and it's really almost based on how well you embrace your consumer in a two-way conversation. Yes.
I'm supposed to stand. The Museum of Me, given the success and all of that, is it just a one-off, or why don't you do another iteration of it, building on it?
So we do have a program out there right now that one of my colleagues did, and it's called What About Me? And I think you can get there by going to whataboutme.intel.com. And you can go and use Facebook Connect and also attach your YouTube and Twitter profiles, and it will give you an infograph of who you are based on your social updates. We've gotten a lot of high praise from our geographies that haven't seen it yet. It literally just kicked off at South by Southwest, so go try it out. It's pretty interesting. And my colleague that did it, Lori Kohler, is actually speaking at the IAB across town today. So.
Well, another question.
Right here.
Piper.
Awesome presentation.
Thank you.
So
I want you to score my fall.
That's okay. I was going to say it was like too good. You needed something to kind of throw you off a little bit. So since you're being challenged to look 6 to 12 months ahead, what are you most excited about in the digital space?
I think that's hard. Besides video. I think you're narrowly focused there. I think just the opportunity to continue to innovate, take advantage of different platforms. When I first started out doing this, I've been at Intel. I've been doing this for most of the time that I've been at Intel, and it's really been a static form of advertising. And I think I wrote something on my blog a couple weeks ago talking about advertainment. We want to entertain the customer. We want to entertain the consumer while still getting that brand goodness forward to them. I think that, I look at what people like Daniel Ek is doing, what David at Hyman is doing at MOG, what Seth Goldstein is doing at Turntable, and what Bill and Tim and Kenny and all the guys at Pandora are doing. They're creating awesome experiences that the customer gets to interact with and help shape. And that's what I think is the greatest thing about where we are right now, is that the customer gets to continue to help us shape a message that's appropriate to them. Maybe even in video. Anybody else?
Well, we want to thank David for literally taking it on the shin, not the chin. That was awesome.